This video was actually supposed to come out yesterday, and I even recorded my take and everything, but at the same time, I had to go and cover the Rams-Packers game, then I had to cover James Harden's debut on my NBA channel, I had to cover some trade rumors on my NBA channel, and then by the time I finally had time to work on this, I had to cover the Bills-Ravens game. So I'm kind of happy that what happened ended up happening because I have a brand new take on it, because a lot of brand new information came out, and some of this information even supports what I was going to say yesterday, but we're now getting the information from significantly more credible sources. So before we get to the content, I just wanted to let you guys know, I got my hands on a couple of more PS5s from StockX. They're like double the price. I'm willing to eat up the cost because what we've been able to accomplish this year has been absolutely remarkable. I'm giving it away to any subscriber that turns on my notifications on this channel. If you're an old subscriber or a new subscriber, so long as you hit that bell and you subscribe, you've entered for a chance to win a PS5. If you want additional entries, make sure you're followed on Instagram and Twitter, because if you're also followed on Instagram and Twitter, you may have a chance to have your takes featured in today's content and future content. And now that we got that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Let's take this from the very top because there's a lot to cover and I want to make sure I get each and every detail for you guys in this one video. Guys, in order for you to understand the full story of what's going on, let me take you through the information we got over the past week. So last week we found out that there's a growing buzz in league circles that Deshaun Watson could ask to be traded, and his new contract doesn't make that as difficult as you think. The reason for this is very simple. The Houston Texans have been on a steep decline since Deshaun Watson got drafted, after once being an extremely promising team featuring former number 1 overall pick Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt on the defensive side of the ball, with DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson captaining the offensive side of the ball. This team was perceived to have a lot of promise. There was even a point where they were able to get Tyrann Mathieu for a season before he went to Kansas City, and things were trending upward for this team as a whole. Once they decided they didn't want to pay their current left tackle Dwayne Brown in 2017 and opted to trade him to the Seattle Seahawks for a late round draft pick, they eventually had a huge hole at the left tackle position to fill, and this is the beginning of the end for the Houston Texans, because Bill O'Brien was promoted to general manager and he was extremely reckless with the Houston Texans assets. The very first reckless move that he made was the Laramie Tunsil trade. Now, of course, the rationale was very simple. There was this huge gaping hole at the left tackle position. Deshaun Watson was one of the highest sacked players in the entire NFL, and this is after he was coming off of an ACL injury in his rookie year. So acquiring a left tackle by any means necessary makes sense, but giving up 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick in order to get him may have been an extremely steep cost, especially considering the fact that they also would have to extend Laramie Tunsil. Essentially, the Miami Dolphins traded the number 13 pick in the 2016 NFL draft, and yes, he was originally supposed to be a top 5 pick before that picture of him in a bong mask came out on draft night, which is a crazy story in of itself, but they essentially flipped him for 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. Now, one of those first-round picks ended up becoming the 26th overall pick in last year's NFL draft, and the other ended up becoming the 3rd overall pick in this year's NFL draft. And the Miami Dolphins are in a remarkable situation to draft Penei Sewell, who's considered to be a remarkable offensive tackle. This trend continued because Jadeveon Clowney originally was down to re-sign with the Houston Texans. But once he found out that the Houston Texans were dangling his name in trade talks, that's when the Texans lost leverage, because Clowney wanted out ASAP. And the way that they would do that is the Houston Texans essentially gave Jadeveon Clowney away to the Seattle Seahawks. You're talking about a former number 1 overall pick that was drafted over the likes of players like Khalil Mack and Odell Beckham Jr. and Aaron Donald. And not to say that Jadeveon Clowney is better than those players, he still is an extremely valuable player on the edge, especially one that's fairly unique in his ability to stop the run and gain many tackles for a loss. Nevertheless, the former three-time Pro Bowler was traded to the Seattle Seahawks for Jacob Martin, Barkevious Mingo, and a 2020 third-round pick. And that all leads up to the worst trade of all, because the Texans were still fairly decent after those trades. Yeah, they were completely gutted out of assets for the future, and there was a huge question mark about how they would be able to surround Deshaun Watson with talent, but then they decided to trade DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. And at the same time, I understand, fine, you don't want to pay DeAndre Hopkins his contract anymore, but trading him for David Johnson and not even getting a first-round pick as a result, they got a 2020 second-round pick and a 2021 fourth-round pick, just goes to show how incompetent Bill O'Brien was with asset management. And then to top that off, he decided to trade for Brandon Cooks, literally giving up the second-round pick that he got from the DeAndre Hopkins trade to the Los Angeles Rams to get Brandon Cooks, who is getting similar money to DeAndre Hopkins. So the entire situation was a mess. Bear in mind, at the time, according to Adam Schefter, Deshaun Watson's anger level with the Houston Texans was a 2 out of 10. So all of this BS went on. All of this incompetent management went on, and Deshaun Watson still was a 2 out of 10 in terms of being angry at the Houston Texans. The straw that broke the camel's back is essentially how the Texans decided to treat Deshaun Watson. You see, according to Irreparable last week, Deshaun Watson is extremely unhappy with the organization after the team owner informed him that he would be involved in the general manager and coaching hiring process and provide feedback. But then he did neither in the hire of Nick Caserio. Deshaun Watson, as a result, has not spoken to the Texans brass in the last few days, even though they have tried to call him. Now, when I mentioned this in my video last week, when I said that there's a chance that the Dolphins may trade for him, many Texans fans said that he's on vacation. Now, in addition to this, the Texans did not inform Deshaun Watson that they intended to hire Caserio, and he found out about the hire on social media. This contributed to Watson taking to Twitter that night to post "Some things never change." Now, there was also a rumor that this could be a tweet in regards to social justice, but that is not confirmed. Mark Berman tweeted out on January 4th that Deshaun Watson came out and said, "We just need a whole culture shift. We just need new energy. We need discipline and structure. We need a leader, and we all got to be on the same page as well. Too many different ideas. Too many people think they have this power, and it's not like that. We need someone to stand tall." On top of this, Schefter even included that Watson has been fairly feasible. He didn't expect the Texans to hire his handpicked candidate, but he wanted to at least have the opportunity to meet with the ownership's final general managers so he could offer his thoughts from a player standpoint to benefit the team. And then the Texans could hire who they wanted. Watson is also angry because he advocated for the Chiefs' offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, who Patrick Mahomes put in a strong word for, and the Texans didn't even attempt to interview Eric Bieniemy. Now, it's still possible for them to interview him. Again, Eric Bieniemy is probably busy with the playoffs currently, but that's something else that drove Deshaun Watson crazy. And all of this information is information that's already been known. This is nothing new. The new information starts from here and on. You see, according to Adam Schefter, he went out last Sunday and tweeted out that one person close to Watson said that if his anger level after they traded DeAndre Hopkins last offseason was a 2, this time it's a 10. And sure enough, what did Deshaun Watson tweet the other day? "I was on 2 and I took it to 10. This essentially makes it official that Deshaun Watson is angry with the Houston Texans. Now, sources close to Deshaun Watson say that this is bigger than firing Jack Easterby, the front office executive whom McNair says he won't fire, according to Chris Mortensen. He says this source says that unless Cal McNair, the owner of the Houston Texans, can fire himself, Deshaun Watson is not about to change his mind, that he does not not want anything to do with the Texans moving forward. So this is way bigger than just Jack Easterby. Deshaun Watson doesn't trust the owner of the Houston Texans and therefore doesn't want to play for the owner of the Houston Texans anymore. Now, unfortunately for the Houston Texans, most of their legends in their 2 decades of being a franchise don't really like them either. Because if you go to what Andre Johnson said on Twitter, and bear in mind, this is a guy that barely tweets, so he's breaking his silence on Twitter just to say this. He said, "If I'm Deshaun Watson, I will stand my ground. The Texans organization is known for wasting players' careers. Since Jack Easterby has walked into the building, nothing good has happened in/for the organization, and for some reason, someone can't seem to see what's going on. This is pathetic." DeAndre Hopkins contributed to this, saying, "When Dre speaks, listen." And then DJ Reader quoted that tweet, who is a Texans former nose tackle, and said, "No cap." Man, you guys think we're done with this video. This video is just getting started because yesterday we got word that the Houston Texans are leaning towards granting JJ Watt his request, and they'll likely trade him this offseason. And as a result of this, Deshaun is in fact legitimately alienated. At this point, the relationship is pretty much irreparable. Now, you're also going to hear from JJ Watt coming soon. Make sure you have your notifications on because we're going to definitely be covering that as well. And this leads us to the news that we got from Schefter this morning, saying that there is a growing sense from the people in and around the Houston Texans organization that Deshaun Watson has played his final snap for the team. It's early in the offseason, there's a lot of time left, but Watson's feelings cannot and should not be underestimated. If you look at another Houston team, the Houston Rockets, they pretty much went through the same situation with James Harden. They were a phenomenal team that was at least at the cusp of contention, but this past offseason, after seeing his head coach move on, his general manager go to the Philadelphia 76ers, and the fact that the roster around him looks completely different, James Harden essentially acted out and said that there was no way that he wanted to be a member of the Houston Rockets. And he said this on record multiple times, and some people that were watching him didn't really agree with the way he went about it before he finally got traded to the Brooklyn Nets. He acted erratically, he would miss training camp so he could go to clubs, and he would throw like basketballs at his fellow teammates in the middle of practice. Pretty much he was extremely toxic. And although many of us say that this was unnecessary behavior to get James Harden traded, well, he saw it as a necessary evil that he had to do in order to get traded. Otherwise, he would not have gotten traded. And Deshaun Watson's beginning to enter the same realm. Especially in the NFL, you could essentially keep the same player on a roster for as long as you want against their wishes due to the franchise tag. There's no franchise tag in the NBA. Once your contract's up, you're free. Deshaun Watson did sign a contract extension, but it's important to note that as well. Now, we also got additional information about this because Adam Schefter said that one league source connected to the Houston Texans head coaching situation said on Saturday that it's gone from the least desirable head coaching job to the most undesirable head coaching job in the NFL. That's a fact. That's how that job is now looked at by everybody. I think Schefter may have messed this up. I think he was trying to say that it was one of the most desirable jobs, and it's now one of the least desirable jobs. I don't know why he messed this up because he even tweeted this out twice. And there you have it. Essentially, what happened was the Houston Texans ownership completely alienated one of the most transcendent quarterbacks in the past decade. And I don't think people understand how good Deshaun Watson is. I put him in the Patrick Mahomes tier of talent because of what he was able to accomplish this past year with absolutely no good players around him. And that's not an insult to Will Fuller. If you look at how much his team has been gutted and what he's been able to accomplish despite that, this is a truly transcendent talent who feels that his career is about to get wasted and is trying to avoid that from happening. So if you're the Houston Texans, your hands are tied at this point. Because if you traded Watson like 2 weeks ago, you may have had an opportunity to get a couple of first-round picks, but as time goes on more and more, you're in a situation where Watson is going to refuse to play for the Houston Texans as a result of the way ownership has treated him. and you're probably going to lose leverage more and more as time goes on. There's one last thing I wanted to bring up here, and it's the fact that the New York Jets are in a fantastic situation to trade for Deshaun Watson as well. They have the number 2 overall pick this year. They have 2 firsts in 2022 and a first in 2023. That's 3 first-round picks. They could also pick up an extra pick if they traded Sam Darnold, or they could also trade Sam Darnold to the Houston Texans. Last week, it was the Miami Dolphins who was the number 3 overall pick. This year is the New York Jets. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think is going to end up happening with Deshaun Watson? If you enjoy the content, make sure you leave a like and subscribe and turn on our notifications, because this took a while to do. Besides that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.